Welcome to episode 195 of the Left Behind Game Club. This week, we play Indika. Let's get right into it.
You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm your host, Jacob McCord, and today I have two friends with me. The first friend, you know her, you love her. Her name is Katie Lesperance.
Hello. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi.
I stole it before it could happen.
You sure did. Here to throw a second oh hi into the well is Travis Colnut. Hello.
Oh, no.
Oh,
no.
hi. Today we are playing Indika, a game developed by Odd Meter. A game developed by Odd Meter and published by 11-Bit Studios, released in 2024. We're playing a new one on the show, and we're doing it in person. I can touch you guys if I wanted to, but I won't do that.
You shouldn't do that.
This is a game about religion, so I will not do that. Let's start with our fast pitch about Indika. Why don't I start with someone that's not me? Travis.
Oh, okay. Indika is a 3D puzzle platformer wearing a nun's habit.
Oh, very nice.
Did you say wearing a nun's habit?
I googled
that's
what is the name of a nun's outfit, and it's called a habit.
Stop.
You guys didn't know that?
No, I did not.
I thought you were both Catholic boys. What happened?
You went to school with us. You're also a Catholic girl.
Yeah, I just know things and remember them. I don't know.
Okay, Miss Know-It-All, you're up next.
Okay. It is. It's Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret. And Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice had a walking sim baby. Right?
Very good.
That's
Thank
very
you.
good.
Yeah.
I was
That's
proud
very
of that
good. Mine will just be about in Indika, you question religion, and also why you're pushing so many boxes. So I'd love to start with something. This is a newer game, so I wanted to know, before you played Indika, what did you know about the game before you went into it? Travis? I forget who said we should do Indika.
This has been on my...
Yeah.
I think it must have been on some showcase, maybe a Day of the Devs thing, maybe something like that. And I just found the marketing for it very interesting. Like, there's this, it's black and white with stark yellow. It just seemed very weird, very in my wheelhouse. I've been slowly getting into more weirder and weirder kind of media, TV shows, movies, video games. And then, so as soon as I saw that, I was like, instantly like, oh, this is piquing my interest. And then, so it was in my brain already. And then we do a fantasy critic for Left Behind, and I had picked it in my 2024 draft because I was like, this seems, I'm doing it for me, but it feels like it could be okay. Mm-hmm. And then, so I was just keeping up with it just generally because of that. Mm-hmm. And so it's been a game that I've wanted to play for quite a while. And so I was like, hey, let's do this. It might be fun. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was pretty much it.
Was that a subtle plug for the Discord and the fantasy critic within the Discord?
Maybe.
Where can people find that Discord? leftbehindgame.club/Discord.
Oh, is that it?
I'm just here for plugs. That's it.
It's all saved on my phone.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
That's not our strength.
It's like how you don't know your own phone numbers. You know, you just like, it's saved in my phone. I don't type it in. I go there every day.
I don't know your phone numbers.
No,
do you know our phone numbers?
Okay, I know my own.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't know anyone's phone number.
Okay.
I thought you were about to say, like, I know your phone numbers.
No.
Like you're some kind of better person than us.
No, absolutely not. I am full of sin.
She got more.
Did you know anything about this sinful experience before you played it?
I knew a little bit about it. I basically heard rumblings that it was a cool, weird, short experience that one should consider trying. And I knew there was nuns, and there was, like, you know, a little paranoia, a little supernatural, a little, like, question what's going on. That's pretty much it. There's nuns, and it's weird. That's all.
Yeah, I think similar to you, I think I heard Jacob Geller talk about it, where he was like, you start the game, and you just, like, go put water in a well, and then they say, do it again! And then you get points that don't matter. So I was like, it sounds like my kind of game. Let's do it. We all played it on PlayStation 5.
Yes.
This game starts with that exact thing that I described, where you go to a well and have to just get a bunch of water, and then do it again.
Yes.
How did that make you feel? I
So-
mean, let me actually take it back. There's a section right before that to start the game, and then you do the water thing. But like those two experiences together, how did you feel in the first 10 minutes of Indika? Was it a terrible mistake to play this game? Maybe.
Oh God, no.
No.
Especially, I mean, it's at the start of the game. So the game opens. You are a
Set it
young
up.
woman named Indika. You live in a convent with other nuns. It appears that the other nuns don't like you, and you are saying sorry a lot. You are extremely Canadian. You're muttering sorry all the time for your mere existence. And then you have been given a couple tasks to do. They're like, oh, so and so needs fruit, and so needs this water barrel filled. Because it's the first 15, 20 minutes, I wasn't mad at it. Like, also because it is mysterious. Like the opening, the setting is very mysterious. What you're being asked to do is a little mysterious. You're like, where are we going with this? So, and also they're kind of presenting very early this like meta narrative of like, what's a game though? And like, what are you being asked to do?
Right.
And why are you doing it? And what's the purpose of your actions? Like your internal motivation for anything. So then they're like, fill up this water barrel. And you're like, oh, okay, it's a game. And then it's kind of, I thought it would have.
You get points too. That's a very important thing
You
to
do.
say.
You get points. And it very early says, it factually tells you the points don't matter. Don't bother
They're
with the points.
pointless.
The points are
It was
pointless.
really good. Yeah, I really like that.
It's like, whose line is it anyway?
Yeah.
The points don't matter.
So like, it was fine. I didn't mind it. I kind of thought it was going to be more because I had heard stories of like, oh, this 10-minute
what a waste
water
of time,
barrel
yeah.
thing and how it was like this amazing moment in gaming. And I was like, it wasn't that great.
No. That's the thing. I didn't have like a visceral like reaction to it or anything. I thought nothing much of it. I thought, to me, the thing with this game and what it does, it's very photorealistic looking. It's gray.
Yep.
It's as realistic looking as it's trying to be. And then you get these gamey like pixel noise kind of going bling, and you gain points for every time you fill the water bucket. And every time that happened, I was like, what is this? Like the weird gamey things that they start introducing. The game opens with you, like it's pixel art, and you're falling through kind of like a sky, and you're collecting kind of points, and you can kind of move your little pixel character through it. And there's obviously stuff going on with Indika that the nuns don't like you for whatever reason. You can try to piece that together, but it's like gain this many religion points for essentially completing these tasks. And then you have like a skill tree that grows where you can increase your guilt or
Yeah.
like different things, right? Like your Catholic guilt. How many points do I put in Catholic guilt?
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
But that's the thing, the contrast between the very pixely gamey stuff and the very photorealistic looking like story, that's the part that drew me in. So that's what I took away from that water bucket filling thing. Wasn't the fact that I did it 5 times and the nun pushed it over. I was like, okay, you're telling me something here right off the bat. And I took that as a like, oh, it's very good foreshadowing for what doing the gamey things actually mean in the end, right?
Yeah.
Which we'll get to.
And the opening also sets up that there's like this beyond the gamey parts, the sound effects and the way like the point indicators. There's also like a 2D side to this game too. So you have Indika in 2D and then Indika in 3D.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to point out this is an indie game. But I would say, and I don't know if y'all agree, it punches above its weight from like a cinematography perspective.
Yeah.
Exactly. It doesn't feel like an indie game because I think because just visually you look at it and you're like, this actually looks really nice. Like they worked on the like model for the veil that she's wearing, you know what I mean? Like they made sure certain things work, but also it's kind of janky too at times.
Oh, yeah.
I love the jankiness too.
Yeah.
Like
Just
It's
in terms
got beautiful
of visual.
Euro jank to it.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
Visual quality is, like you said, punching way above its weight.
Mhm.
All the other aspects you
Like the
can kind of
movement.
feel, and even just like themes and
The
just,
clipping that happens too, like-
Environments I
yeah.
think aren't as good as like the character models and at times.
But it feels purposeful. Like I'm like they're not trying. To me, I think it feels like this game isn't trying to take itself too seriously. Like that's the thing; it's presented very serious, and then it's like, bling, you gained 30 religion points, and it's not taking itself too seriously with the gamey stuff. Like it knows what it's doing.
I I kind of disagree in
what
that,
way?
well, it is taking it seriously, but that's part of this message that the
Yes.
game is taking very seriously. I agree with you in that it's giving you elements that are kind of odd and do have a sense of humor about them.
That's what yeah.
But I think the message, like what it's trying to do,
the story is serious.
with that whole like meta narrative of gaming, I feel like that's pretty serious.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's taking it very seriously. But yeah, the game tone has like a tongue-in-cheek element to it.
I guess, yeah, you've put it better into words than I could. Like the tongue-in-cheek element of it is like, haha, we know what we're doing here, and kind of like poking fun at you a little bit.
Even in the narrator. So there's like this internal monologue voice that Indika has. That's like this man, it's almost like a man by like a fireplace with a book telling a story. He's like, and then Indika went to the village where things were not as they seem. And he's like, oh, you think that you know what's going on. And like, it's just kind of silly.
It felt very Monty Python to me, which I know that's not the intention. The intention is for it to be self-serious, but all I could think is like, this is real silly.
Which kind of throws you for a loop of where you're like, I don't know where I'm sitting. You feel unsettled at the beginning of the game, especially, oh my God, at the beginning. Because I was like, how weird is this game going to be? Right? Because you get the vibe very quickly. We're going to be pretty weird. Whether or not this is demonstrative of the rest of the game or not, regardless, very beginning of the game, there's a cutscene and a little tiny man comes crawling out of a nun's mouth and does like dances and stuff. And I was like, what the absolute hell is this thing that I'm about to play? And I don't know what's going to happen. It actually ended up being not quite as weird as that.
Right.
I feel like that was one of the weirdest parts.
Yeah.
That might be the weirdest part.
I think so. Which kind of, I don't know how I felt about it. Affected my impression of the rest of the game because that was so early. But yeah, no, there's some weird stuff.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, obviously, so it's playing with the idea that that voice in her head is the devil himself, right? Like that's part of,
kind of implied.
It's implied that like she is possessed by the devil, and that's why she's no good for, like, the nuns don't like her. There's a voice in her head that is telling her to do things, and she is, she's seeing things. She sees a little person walk out of the nun's mouth and whatever, right? Like there is a little level of like mental illness here, and how they're not like, you actually need help. No, like you're just go away, right? Because then they end up sending her on a mission to deliver a letter, and then that's when the game actually kind of kicks in, right? Where you're then kind of going on the story to deliver the letter.
I mean, so that's what you do.
Yeah.
And so the game, gameplay wise, ends up splitting up into sort of
like
chapters where you are sort of, I don't want to call it a walking sim, but it's not a very gamey game, and that's okay.
Yeah.
In most sections, it's not a very gamey game, but you are traversing through environments. You're doing some light puzzle solving, some light platforming, and that's sort of that first part of the game where you are making your way through sort of a wintry environment, crossing creeks, figuring out levers, until you meet Ilya. Yeah,
and you come across a train crash, and he's this convict that's he's got a weird decrepit looking arm, and kind of becomes your companion along for the ride, because they both decide that they need to find something in this city that's Spasov. They're looking for the Kudets in Spasov that will help them solve all their problems, fix his arm, get rid of the devil in her head, and they're trying to, let's better ourselves together. And he says he's speaking to God, and she's thinking that she hasn't told him, but she hears the devil in her head. And so there's they're an interesting dynamic between the two. But like, even right out the gate, once you get him, it's just ridiculous. Like, you're kind of on this steam-powered bike, and you're going away, and like she's riding this bike and dragging him along. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, there's goofy, insane scenarios that you're being put into in this backdrop of this very realistic-looking thing, right?
Well, basically, there's the equivalent of like a car chase that happens as well, which was very silly to me.
There's a lot of silliness. Like, there's silliness that happens constantly in this game that I'm like, what? If you take a second to look, like, what are we doing here? Like, it's not, I said, like, in my fast pitch, it's like a 3D puzzle platformer, because like, when you think about the things that you're doing, none of that is based in realism. You're like
No.
walking through a fish dryer and you're like avoiding ginormous fish being hung, right? You're moving a huge crane. You're this nun like running this giant crane, moving giant cans of caviar around. You're moving crates and barrels and stuff like that. You're
being chased by a
ginormous
black dog.
Like it's almost, they feel like N64 PS1 level design kind of games. Like the world that you're traversing is surreal, but it looks real. And like there's a gamey aspect in there that like I see where they're going with this, where it's like, okay, there's the gamey aspect of what you're doing, and narratively it kind of makes sense. Like she's playing, not to spoil it, but she's playing a game of how many religion points can I get to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing that as you're playing the game. Yes, there are actual mini games where it's 2D pixel art mini games, but even the levels that you're traversing with Ilya in the game itself is like, there's no way I haven't done a 3D platformer where you're trying to, get into the gap so something doesn't knock you off an edge, right? Like,
except most times you play games like that, it's actually good and fun to play.
But
so I think this is one of the things that kind of separate, like, there's a chunk of the game that is kind of separate to me from the narrative, which is just, how do you feel about the puzzles and the gameplay?
Yeah.
The puzzles and the gameplay,
very bad.
Bad is harsh.
Yeah, I don't think
bad is harsh.
Basic.
It's not bad.
I think basic.
It's not bad. I've played bad things. It's not bad.
Name a game that puzzles worse than this.
That's
that
not
you
the
played
point
in the
of the
last
game.
5 years.
Okay,
and I agree with
but
you.
the puzzles aren't
100%.
bad. They're just basic and just kind of, you're just kind of going through the motions.
Sure,
they're
the
not
puzzles
thrilling.
are basic, but the controls also, like,
I
I
thought
found
the controls
myself
were
struggling a bit with them.
I did not struggle with the controls at all.
It was a combination of like, these are kind of boring, the controls aren't like as tight as I would want them to be, and like the amount of times that I would die to a dog because like, oh, I didn't get over this ledge fast enough happened more than once. And maybe, look, I'm not the best gamer out there, but the game had ambitions gameplay-wise that it could not meet.
Oh, I thought that the gameplay ambitions were very minimal.
And I
thought that they were...
I feel like they were intentional. Like, I think...
They're simplistic for the sake of simplicity. You're just accomplishing tasks.
You're literally just maneuvering through an environment, doing light puzzling, moving a crate around to get over a ledge, right? Like, you have to... It's almost a quick time event where you're just, I got to get through this level so this dog doesn't eat me, right? Like, but it feels intentional to me. And that's what I find interesting about this game, is that I feel that Indika is doing all of these things. I guess it's that thing. It speaks to the narrative. The narrative is Indika is using faith to try to feel like she's a better person for the things that happened in her past. And you're going through all of these gamey kind of environments. Like, if you look around, there's massive whale-sized catfish on hooks, right? This is not real. This isn't real life. Like, and then they have ginormous, bigger than human-sized cans of caviar, and she's maneuvering them around on a huge robot machine. And like, it's not real life. Like, you're doing really silly PS1 era puzzle platforming things, but it's got this look of seriousness in front of it, right?
So I took that as the kind of ridiculousness of the settings and how it kind of gets silly as far as the size of the caviar containers and like the size of the fish and the size of this. I took that more as we are becoming more and more detached from reality, and we are hunting for comfort more and more. Yeah. That like we are almost like disassociating ourselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Not focusing on what is actually happening and like, no, like almost like you're telling a tale.
Yeah.
Or like a tale that she's telling herself.
Yeah.
I mean, one of you guys invoked Hellblade, and that was such an apt like comparison, because I think a game like this only exists in a post-Hellblade world.
Maybe. I mean, it definitely draws things from that as far as just like the environment not being what it seems, a little bit of touch of unreliable narrator, touch of what are your decisions actually mean, what is this actually about, and also the environment changing and shifting your perception of things, which I think was one of the coolest things
Yes.
The praying,
that I
the
wish
praying stuff.
they would have
Very-
used
yep,
more.
agreed.
There's a
Right.
lot of things
Yep.
in this game that I would just wish that they would have developed
Yes.
I think
a
there was,
little bit
3
further.
total, maybe, where you do the praying thing,
Yeah.
maybe 2 or 3.
Where the environment would like move
Yeah.
and allow you to traverse in different. So, like example, there'd be a bridge that you wouldn't be able to access, and then you
Yeah.
pray, and then in real time, like the environment either smashes together or stretches out, and you can then traverse in different ways. Which I agree,
Yeah.
so cool.
But that's the thing, and those things are tied to the narrative. Those moments
Yeah.
happen when she overtly sins.
Yep.
She calls that guy an imbecile, and it was really funny. She's like, imbecile was a medical diagnosis. Like, she's lying to herself
Yeah.
about why she called him an imbecile. But like, she sinned, and so then the intrusive thoughts in her head start overtaking. The environment starts shifting, and
Yeah.
so she prays to block out the
and
intrusive
uses
thoughts.
points while she does.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
She's you have to hold a button, and the controller's vibrating, and you have to pray to then puzzle your way out of this environment. And every time you let go, it's like the devil is screaming at you in your
Yeah.
head, because it's your intrusive thoughts of like, this is what I actually think that guy's an imbecile.
Yeah.
She ripped open the letter. Then the environment shifts, right?
Mhm.
Whenever she sinned the big sins of the game, or at least what she considered a sin, like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have opened that letter, then the environment shifts, and it's a reflection of her reality.
Yeah.
And so I think
It's very like red, imposing, demonic.
Yep,
Like,
exactly.
and the man is talking the entire time, and he's just spewing,
like
just
terrible things.
constantly
Yep.
talking, and then it's really well done in like visual design
Mhm.
and the sound, like coming in and out, and the whooshing of like it changing, because you can go back and forth as
Yeah.
many times as you want, really, and it's just really well done, and I just kind of wish that they had pushed it. I admire the restraint of this game.
Not wanting to overkill it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of being like, no, this is the story we're telling. These are the tools that we're using to better tell the story and to get our point across, and not go nuts. They could have gone full on Hideo Kojima, Death Stranding 2 trailer. There's little men crawling out of every nun's mouth and like, I don't know, doing crazy stuff. And it's like, no, it's just here and there, it's sprinkled in. So part of me admires the restraint of it. And part of me wants them to just push things just a little bit, just develop things a little further.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my like biggest conflict with this game is it's not the puzzle, because I don't mind that the puzzles are super simple, because I don't think that's the point of the game. But like just those things, I just wish they just pushed it just a smidge, smidge
Where
more.
I think I wish they would have had more restraint and made a smaller game. Like that's like just take some of the stuff that isn't as polished or as good and just take that stuff out.
Okay, what though?
We don't need to push puzzle boxes around. We don't need to be in a like fish factory. I think they could have told a much simpler story by using more of the 2D stuff that we haven't really talked about, which frankly I think is one of the best parts of the game. Like I almost wanted them to make a like, cool, I want your next game, just make those 2D vignettes again about something emotional.
Again, I disagree.
Okay,
I
did
think
you not
they
like those?
No, I loved them. I think
Yeah.
they shine because they're sprinkled throughout.
Mm.
And
they're
because
all
it's
flashback.
so
it's all her memory. It's all
Yes.
what she remembers and situations that
and
happen,
it's so
right?
different from what you've been doing that it's like, whoa, it's really stark.
Yeah.
And also because the flashbacks are made that way, it feels more separate from the story. So the story feels self-contained more. Whereas if it was like more the story is told that way with the 2D stuff, it I don't know, it shifts how I perceive the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like that it feels like a self-contained story with these flashbacks not feeling like traditional flashbacks, and I feel like that's why they did that.
Yeah.
Why they made it so differently when you're showing these little nuggets.
Yeah, like I don't think I needed like I don't feel like the puzzles aren't anything to write home about.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong, but I think they're just basic little things to kind of
Yeah.
get you through the story. Like you're really doing these little tiny puzzles that maybe last like 15 minutes at the most
Yeah.
for like a section, but in between you're having narrative discussion between her and Ilya, and it's pushing the story forward, right?
Mhm.
Like I guess
Yeah, stories being told while
stories
you're doing
being told.
it.
So I guess that's the thing. If those moments weren't there, then I guess I just have a walking sim that.
Which I'm more okay with that.
No,
But again, that's probably my personal preference where I'm just like, no,
you want
just
a
like,
story. You love a visual
yeah,
novel.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, take me to the thing where the stuff between Indika and Ilya, I'm
I
like,
feel
great.
yeah, but
The scene that we'll talk about later also, fantastic.
That's the thing.
Which one? There's multiple, right?
That's the thing. The chemistry is really good.
Yeah.
I like the way that they play off each other. And I think the story is interesting between the two of them. But I think if it didn't have these weird gamey things in between, then it just becomes another visual novel. And I think that it doesn't do enough to set itself apart to really drive home the idea of you're
doing
trying
the
to
tasks and getting points.
You're trying to gain
how
religion.
you perceive these points.
Yes.
Which is one of the core. There are so many themes.
That's the thing.
Yes.
Oh my god,
Yes.
there's so many things to dig into of like how and this is like an old, theory of religion and whatnot of like, oh, how do you value the things that you're doing on Earth, and like it's an old concept of like viewing it like points.
Yeah.
Of like, oh well, I did this good thing, therefore that counteracts this bad thing, which is, I think, entirely false.
Pretty
I don't
early
think
on in the
that's
game,
accurate at
there's
all.
a moment where there's a girl being assaulted by one of these convicts or something like that. And Indika is having a moment of like, do I step in or do I not? And she inadvertently steps in because she makes a noise and the guy notices her. But then after the fact, she's sitting there repeating like, did you see I saved that girl? I saved that girl. I saved that girl. And that was very insightful into her thought process where she's sitting here. I did the right thing by saving that girl, but it's like, okay, because what? Then now you look better to God and now I've undone the bad things I've done. Like she's trying to game the system.
Yeah, the voice even says it. The voice says, "Why? Oh, you're thinking about saving her, are you?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? So that you can be the hero?
Yeah.
Or because you want to help her?
What's the intention behind
Yeah.
your actions? It's
was
not,
like, ooh.
am I a good person genuinely, or am I doing it to appear to be a good person to who? To God? To the other people around me? Right? And so the game keeps playing with that over and over and over again, where she's gaining, you can light a candle and you can,
Did you get the points though? Because I got all the points.
I got by finding objects in the
I was
environment.
like, the points are pointless, but I'm like,
No.
but I'm picking up them points, baby.
I platinumed this game.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Honestly, I had a couple left at the end, but I platinumed it. But also, I was just
You
like,
can chapter select.
that's
so.
the thing. You can chapter select afterwards, but I enjoyed going around and doing it. I was like, that says the points are pointless. I'm like, I want to see what happens. And then, yes, of course, in the end, they are pointless. But then the way in which they are revealed to be pointless is actually pretty like effective, where you're like, oh my God, right? But I did everything that I was supposed to because I'm also like trying to embody the character, and she would do everything
Get all the
possible
points.
to make herself feel better about her shortcomings, her self-hatred for whatever she's had in the past. Right?
Part of me almost wishes I would have recorded the moment where I prayed for the first time and my points were going down. And I was like, wait, why are my points going down? So to your point, like,
That's
points are pointless, but I still cared about them.
And the
Because
game
we're
does a good
conditioned
job of
as
making you
gamers
want
to do that.
Yeah, you're gaming.
It's very BioShock, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is a video game. This is what we do in video games.
Yeah.
You do the thing you're supposed to do, and you get the points, and like,
Yeah,
it's kind of putting a little
you're doing
lampshade
because
on
you've
there.
been told to do this because it's a video game.
And it feels good. You
Yeah.
hear the chime, and you're like, you see the number goes up. It feels good.
Yeah,
Also,
I unlocked more grief. Great, like
I speaking of leveling, I thought it was cool that it was another thing of like, it's a little mysterious at the start of the game, because the first time you get enough points to level up, you level up and you're already like level 8.
yeah,
And it's like little things like that where you go like, oh, she's been at this a while.
right.
She's been getting those points up, and it kind of sets you in the story
Yeah,
without explicitly telling you she's been gathering all these points and stuff. It's like that is told to you just through what your level is at the start of the game, and there's little things like that are communicated through things that aren't explicitly told to you that I really appreciate.
yeah.
I just wonder because I've talked to some people or heard some people talk about how they have a religious background and how immediately like they thought like, I mean, all three of us went to Catholic school,
Yeah.
and this game is a Catholic guilt simulator. And the whole time I was like, why is Indika just embodying Catholic guilt? Like, oh, actually,
Yeah.
I know exactly why.
And that's the thing. Like, we get told, I guess we could probably spoil it, but like, we get told the story in flashbacks where she ended up,
these 2D gameplay flashbacks.
Exactly. You get told that she ended up falling in like probably with this boy in her town, and he wanted to run away with her, and you play a little mini game where you try to steal all the money from her dad's bike shop
Little
and
Pac-Man
stuff.
section.
Little Pac-Man,
Yeah.
sweet. Yeah, it was funny, right? Like, and then, but then at the end, the father takes out a shotgun and is like, "Do you know this man?" And Indika lies and says, "No, I don't know him." And then the man kills the boy, like in front of her.
Yeah.
And she's been dealing with the guilt of her actions, like whether or not she was sent to the convent or whether or not she went of her own accord. But she tried to use faith to absolve herself of what she deemed a sin.
Mhm.
And so she's been trying to accumulate these points all the way through. And then near the end of we could talk about like story beats if we wanted to,
Mhm.
but you end up, all of this stuff that you've been accumulating kind of becomes for nothing.
Yeah. That's my biggest takeaway was like, Indika, who are you trying to prove this
Exactly.
to? Of like, people looking to like a higher power as if you can't make yourself good with yourself,
Mhm.
going like, well, maybe somebody else will forgive me.
Yeah.
Like maybe, well, if I'm good with God,
Yeah.
and it's like a Band-Aid, right?
It's always putting the blame somewhere else,
or
right?
just shifting the responsibility
Exactly.
to somebody
Yeah.
else to forgive you when it's like, no, she just has to forgive herself.
Her and Ilya had an interesting conversation about the dog and how, the dog is just acting on instinct. Like, the devil was not in this. You
Yeah.
can forgive the dog because he's just doing what he does.
But I didn't know what the dog represented. That's
I-
the only question
So-
mark that I had. Is I don't exactly know, because like we know that the devil is embodied within Indika,
Or
and
her
is
perception
the devil
of
on her
the
shoulder.
devil.
yeah,
Sure,
in reality,
is the
you
devil on
realize
her
she
shoulders.
is the devil
She's the
because it's
devil.
just her
Yeah.
own thoughts,
Yeah.
right?
She's doing it to herself the entire game, right? She is the one who's punishing herself and trying to seek forgiveness, but it's like that doesn't come from anywhere out external.
Mhm.
And that happens a lot. People use external things like religion or whatever it may be, or partners
Yeah.
or whatever, to try and get somebody else to give you what you need. But it's like that's not coming from anywhere else.
Yeah.
Indika, like
The conversation they were having was about like bad things happen, and like,
Mhm.
is it this bad thing happened, it was God's will. This happened, it was God's intention was that this bad thing was going to happen. Well, why was the dog acting the way it was? And Indika's trying to argue like, well, it's the dog's acting on instinct. Maybe he's hungry. Maybe he's frightened. Maybe there's any kind of thing that's there. And Ilya turns it around on her and says like, why, we could be hungry, we could be frightened, there could be any number
That's
of
another
reasons.
thing.
And she's using God as the excuse for why people commit good or bad things. God told me to do this, it was a good thing. The devil told me to do this, it was a bad thing.
as opposed to the
Taking
harder,
ownership for your own actions.
harder reality, which
Yeah.
is that people are fallible and people do things that are bad sometimes
Yeah.
or have bad effects, and it's a lot easier to say like, no, the devil made me do it,
Exactly.
rather than no, I screwed up.
Yeah.
It was really at that stuff that it dug into. I was like, this is good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this, and they don't explicitly say she wants God to forgive her. Like
No.
they don't lay it out for you, but it's not veiled. Like it's
No.
they have direct
Yeah.
conversations about a soul and what does a soul mean and what do our decisions
Mm-hmm.
mean. But it's still, you still have to like think about it and draw your own conclusions and kind of think back about it and maybe come to new realizations. Like there's a lot there. to
So
dig
is the
into.
dog like a representation of your like uninhibited feelings?
Maybe a little bit. Like that's the conversation that they have around the dog is
Okay.
is about those kinds of things. Like it's not direct, but they're discussing the fact that like the dog is acting on instinct. And then Ilya does, I think, directly compare it
Mhm.
and say like, yeah, you can forgive the dog because he's doing what he thinks is
Mhm.
right, but it's like, why
But
can't you
you're-
forgive a human for that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you give allowances to other people, not even just a dog, but sometimes people give allowances to other people, like, oh, they screwed up, but you don't give allowances to yourself,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? And then also they dig into choices and like, is a choice really a
Yeah.
choice?
Is this God's will,
yeah.
or did I actually choose to do this?
And did you even choose it?
Yeah.
Because if it's like, well, if that's a rational answer,
if this is the path
is that
I'm
a
supposed to
choice?
be on,
Yeah.
exactly.
Are you actually making an actual choice, or is that just like that was presented to you, so that's what you were going to do?
Yes, that was the thing, the decision to go to the convent. She was like, I didn't have a choice. In reality, she did. Like, I think the implication was that she chose it because this terrible thing happened and she had to go. Like, if there is no other option, then I guess
Then you're not making a choice.
you're not making a choice. I had to do this because I had to. But it's like, no, you could have made a choice.
And that conversation is tricky because
Yeah.
it's like they kind of present both sides of that. You
Exactly.
kind of have to draw your own conclusions for that one
Yeah.
because they present both like propositions of that you don't have that many choices because you make the choice that is best for you at the time
with the information that you had available.
Yeah, so are you making a choice or not, or is that just what was going to happen? But yeah, you kind of have to like dig into it for your own.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're the only person in your circle who wants to go deep about video games regularly?
We were like that too, until now.
Welcome to Crossplay Conversations, the brand new bi-weekly topical video game podcast from Luke Lewis,
Joseph Hooper,
and Jacob McCoy.
With many years of breaking it down separately on shows like the Left Behind Game Club, Player Podcast, and Lukewarm Games, the gang is finally coming together to publish their gaming group chat in audio form every other week.
Expect roundtable reviews of the latest games, profiles of upcoming indies, and insightful conversations about essential topics in the video game industry. All with a mostly positive, insightful, and fun style.
Help us out by subscribing on your podcast platform of choice to get the first episodes delivered straight to your feed.
And follow us on Twitter at Crossplay Convos for updates about the show.
Cheers and happy gaming.
Do you find yourself playing older games and wishing that there were new discussions about those games? Enter Tales from the Backlog. Hi, I'm Dave Jackson, and on each episode, I'm joined by a guest to break down those games that may be stuck in your ever-expanding backlog. Each episode looks at one game in depth, focusing on mechanics, story, music, and other aspects with no spoilers until a clearly marked spoiler wall in the middle. If you've played the game, go ahead and climb that spoiler wall and enjoy in-depth story discussions, and if not, jump out when we warn you and maybe go play that game for yourself. We have over 100 episodes in the feed, everything from Disco Elysium to Tunic to discussion episodes about how to get into horror games, and if games actually need to be fun, or if they have more to offer. I guarantee that there's something in there for everybody. Once again, that's Tales from the Backlog, available wherever your podcasts are found.
Her also being, tempted by passion.
Yeah, a little bit.
At the same time as that, running away from that dog, I thought also was a fun choice.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hilarious. This game is so freaking funny. Like, you get, so they run away from the dog.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where they're drenched because they fell in the water.
Yes. And then they get by a fire.
And so they find a furnace and they take off their clothes behind a curtain so they don't see each other. And they're drying, and like, you can select at the beginning, is there nudity? Do you want to see nudity? Whatever, right?
Can you?
There's a selector.
Yeah, there's an option.
In the option.
I
right?
must have picked the nudity.
I mean, you basically see an outline. That's some little side boob, but that's about it.
That's literally it. But
it's Rose and Titanic, basically.
Yeah, it's not even. It's silhouetted. Rose, are you kidding me?
How she starts?
Did you see Titanic?
I did. How she starts. Obviously, the painting is her nude, but
sure.
Yeah, but that's the thing. So there's a temptation scene there, right? And as soon as that scene finishes, you get an achievement that says abstinence, and it says
you didn't take a screenshot.
You didn't take a screenshot, which is just so funny. You literally had to just not take a screenshot.
Jacob,
I don't. Now I'm gonna have to check.
It probably popped up, and you thought I just finished it. But if you looked at the achievement, because I went back to finish them all, but it said, "Don't no screenshots, please." Was the descriptor?
Jacob took a picture of that silhouetted boob.
That's what I'm saying. But that's the thing. That's where I find the game is hilarious. Like the achievement is called abstinence, and it's just so funny that the one part that they would do that. It's tongue in cheek, like you said. It's really, really good.
So we make our way through that factory, the fish factory, and then you start to make yourself towards the Church of the Cudets.
The Cudets.
The Cudets.
There is a moment right at the end of the factory where Ilya.
Oh, his arm.
His arm. So Ilya's decrepit arm
is not good.
No,
it's bad.
He looks like a zombie, quite frankly, and it's really bad. And so she's been kind of medicating him along the way, and he gets to the point where she's like, this arm has to come off.
Yep.
And there's a really, really great scene where she pretty much puts his arm on a conveyor belt in this fish deheading machine, and she has to chop off his arm.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point was they were trying to get to the Cudets so that it could heal his arm. And so at that point, you kind of go your separate ways for a bit because he's
mad that you made that choice on his behalf.
Exactly. And he's like, this wasn't God's plan.
Yeah.
He's kind of going through the same thing as her, right? Like, this wasn't God's plan for me. You actually are the devil because you derailed what I was supposed to be doing.
Where's my arm? I need to put it in the backpack.
He put it in a backpack and it's still
my
moving
God.
around. Like,
The arm is very funny.
yeah, that's like, there's just stupid funny moments in this thing, right? But yeah, so then you make your way to the cadets and the story, and you do some light puzzling along the way, but then you get there and they pray to this. It's kind of like I don't know, metal.
It's like a relic. It's a religious relic.
Yeah, a little pretty vase
like
looking thing.
A costume jewelry looking box
Yeah,
thing.
something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not working. Obviously, his arm is not. They're trying. She's like holding the arm up, trying to, and like he's praying and kissing the thing and trying to reattach the arm, and it's not working, right? And obviously, the priest that's there, that because they broke into this thing.
Yeah.
It ends up like the priest accidentally gets shot, and she gets arrested, and he makes it out with the cadets, and then you have to, once Indika's imprisoned, she has to get her way out.
Mm-hmm.
And even before that, we are full out spoilers. If you want to play Indika, please stop.
It's 4 or 5 hours.
It's an interesting
cool
time.
game.
Yeah.
It is a cool game. It's an interesting time. If you want weird gaming experiences, go for it. Before that, there is a puzzle element where you're pushing around a box, Jacob.
My favorite part.
Your favorite
Give
part.
me them boxes.
So you're pushing around a box, and then you climb into the next room, and then you realize, oh, this room is the room that I was just in, but it is flipped on its side.
Yes.
And if I do something, if I move this box in this room, it moves that box on the wall in the other room. So then you go, oh, this is getting trippy. This is getting surreal, which, like, as the game goes on, it gets more and more surreal. You're like, oh, this is a level up in surrealness. And then as you're doing it, and you're trying to figure out where do I need to put the box so I can advance, and then you're going back to the other room, and then you kind of see something in the corner of the room kind of go away through the hole, and you're like, oh, I saw something. I know I saw something, but what was it? And then you kind of do it again, and then eventually, I'm assuming you two did the same thing, where at some point you stop, and it is in full view, and you're like, oh crap, there it is. There's like a demon monster, a long-armed,
long-legged, kind of hunched over, disgusting face-looking
big claws.
Thing. Yeah.
I think we'd watched The Substance and played this game around the same time also.
It's a little substance-y.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, it's moving when I move.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh, we're doing something where I'm becoming a demon, is basically my thought. I was like, or I perceive myself to be a demon.
Yes.
And now I'm seeing whole other rooms with a demon in it. And she's not,
at the same
but she's
time
not
as me.
attaching it to herself yet.
No.
She's not saying, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
She's not recognizing it, but she's starting to see something. And that was weird.
I think her reality is starting to crumble a little bit. Right?
Well, I'm sure like players, what I did was very much the thing when you like look at yourself in the mirror sometimes, or like when twins like do the pretend mirror thing where they're like, do I move my hand? Oh my God, the demon's moving.
Yeah.
So is that basically your exact experience?
Literally
like
the exact same thing. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's done so well because it's almost a blink and you'll miss it kind of nudge where you're like, wait, what was that movement?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Foreshadowing.
I like that you can see it.
Yes. It's not so masked that you can't. No, you can outright see the model.
If you stop in the right spot, you're like, oh my God, that's what it is. Like you can do it, which I like. I like that it's not so choreographed, that it's like, no, you saw a little thing in the corner in a cutscene.
Right.
It's
it
like,
disappeared.
no, it's right there. If you want to move to a certain spot so you can see it, you can.
Yeah.
Which I like that a lot.
Yeah. It's how, honestly, it's kind of what level of denial are you wanting to do right now?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, so you move. So that's the thing. You see this, and
then you get to the cadets part.
Yeah, so you get the cadets part. She's then imprisoned.
Yep.
And there's a fascinating little story that gets told by the guard that's bringing you to the prison about how this man started murdering children because they hadn't sinned yet. So now they get to go straight to heaven.
So his one of his kids was injured as a bookshelf or something fell on him. And then he was, I think that dad accidentally knocked it over. The kid is now paralyzed in terrible pain. Nobody can fix him. No doctor can fix him. Eventually he's like, you know what? I have to end the suffering. Cuts the kid's head off with a scythe.
Yeah.
Then he's like, talks to a priest or somebody and is like, no, like the suffering is over. He's like, did he go to heaven or hell? And they're like, well, clearly heaven because he never sinned yet.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh my God, great. So now he's looking and it's the guilt is eating away at him, I assume. And, you know, we're divorcing ourselves from reality. And now he's seeing all these kids and he's like, well, I can do them a favor and send them to heaven because they haven't sinned yet, because they haven't done anything bad yet.
It is the extreme of Indika's situation where you are he's literally trying to get as many good Catholic points because he's like, I'm doing this great thing because I'm saving all of these children. In reality, he is...
And also putting sin as like the worst possible thing in the world.
That's the thing, like, right? And so like now they all get to go to heaven.
I mean, frankly, isn't that religion though?
I think an inappropriate perspective of religion is that.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
People can perceive it that way and take it to the extreme of like, no, all sin is evil and anyone who commits sin is evil.
Right.
And who's not sin, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no,
it doesn't matter if you stole a penny or you murdered someone. That's sin. And that's
people are trying to get through
which
life.
is also talked about. Yeah. If you lost 1,000 letters, is that murder? Right.
And adding things up and saying, well, what about if you murder somebody? What if you steal something? What if you steal an apple? What if you steal 1,000 apples?
Yeah.
And it's like comparing. It's like, well, what's the value of an assault versus or 3 assaults versus 1 murder? And it's like, and it's not it's a completely useless way of looking at
the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And that's the thing. That conversation is way earlier in the game, but then it still ties all together, right?
But importantly, how does she get out of the jail cell?
So that's the thing. So she ends up...
Oh, you know what?
No, go for it. Yeah.
Before that, I thought this was interesting too. So at first, he's like, oh, I'll let you out. She's like, well, I'll do anything. He's like, well, what would you do? And I was like, well, I know where this is going because this is terrible. And then he just says, oh, just turn around in a circle. He's like, now start singing. And at first you're like, well, this is weird. And then because it's so weird and surreal, that to me drove home the point that I'm like, we are completely disassociated from what is actually happening because there's been too much trauma, too much bad things that's happening. So now she is perceiving what we find out is heavily implied to be like a sexual assault. That she's just like, no, I'm just turning around in a circle and singing. And
she's
just
floating in red space speaking to the devil in her head,
just
right?
trying to not even be a part of reality of what's actually happening.
And that's the moment where she loses all her points
all her
too,
points.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
Because she views it as the worst possible sin. Her point count is dropping. And the devil on her shoulder that's been talking to her this entire time is trying to say like, no, like you're like, why is this bad and that's good, or this is, and that's like one of the most interesting conversations. Honestly, it's the conversation she has within herself in her own head while she's disassociating, but it's really hitting the point home of, okay, you did all of these great things and now you're doing this. And she's like, look at what I'm doing. And he's like, this is not your choice. Like, I'm here to protect you.
Yeah.
And you're trying to shove me out of the way. And it's not in reality the devil. It is just her internal thoughts.
The manifestation of her own guilt.
Exactly.
Or like a mental manifestation of her own guilt.
Exactly, right? And so she loses all her points. She's like, well, now what? You know what I mean? And so, and you actually, I think she gets out of that scenario by, he's like, well, let me help you, like the devil. And you,
that creature from the room crawls into the cell and takes care of him, right?
And drops or like it's pinning the guy down or something like that.
Isn't it by a shelf or something?
No, so it looks like he's attacking the man. It looks like he's just being destroyed by this demon thing.
Yeah, and pinning him down and everything like that. And then
the man
she
is
does a little
at her.
Yeah. You do a little like flip back and you look again, and it's really just like she dropped a cabinet on the guy. Yeah. And like you realize, oh no, like this demon is her. Like they are mostly the same there.
Yeah, you're disassociating yourself from your own acts now. Where you're like, no, I don't want to. She doesn't want to think about that she's defending herself, really, but that she did anything bad to this person. So she's like, no, the devil did it.
Right, exactly.
Right?
The story said if I just drop a bookcase on a kid, it's fine.
Right.
That's true. That just happened. Yeah, the guy broke the bookshelf. But like I was like, oh, we're just completely divorcing ourselves from our own actions now. And because it's too much, because she does not have the tools.
No,
the girl needs therapy.
Yeah, literally, this game is Indika. Go to therapy.
Yeah. Go to therapy because you're not dealing.
Isn't that
with
most
this
games?
properly.
Hey, go to therapy.
I mean, generally speaking, that would be helpful in most cases. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So then she's on the run, and it goes to a strange like first person?
First person, yeah.
Which is interesting.
Oh, that would part. I was like, oh,
This is cool.
we're first person now, because I'm like, what does that
Right,
make
what
me?
do I look like? I guess that's the thing,
entire
is you don't
time-
want to see your body, because what do I look like? Am I the devil?
Yeah.
Am I Indika? Like,
Yeah.
who knows,
Your
right?
entire time you're in third person, and then you're like, oh, there's a reason why I'm in first person. What do I look like?
Yeah.
And then you find out.
Yeah. So she finds Ilya like drunk, and he like
He sold the kunettes.
Because he
sold the
sold it.
kudettes because it didn't
Kudettes.
work, obviously.
Mhm.
And then so she goes into the pawn shop to try to get it back. She gets it back, and she does the little prayer to it. You press a button to do the prayer. Doesn't work. Press the button
All
to
the
do
while
the prayer.
you're looking at yourself in
There's
the mirror.
there's a mirror, and
Yep.
it's the reflection, and the reflection is the demon.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it, and you're doing very creepy little
It's very Gollum-y.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like the kiss sound and everything, very
Yeah.
off-putting, right? And then it keeps happening over, like you try it so many
Mhm.
times, and it's not that you still look like the demon.
Mhm.
And then you try, what is it?
Oh, you can shake it.
You shake it, so
to
you
get
get
points.
the point
points out of it.
Yeah.
where you shake
Yeah.
and you try.
I shook.
How far
I
did
shook
you
it a
go?
whole bunch.
Me too. I
Yeah.
leveled
What number?
up back up to like level
Same.
11 or something.
I
What,
did
do
max
you know
level.
how
Just for
many
kicks.
points you ended up shaking it until?
No, I probably was
You
just
do,
shy
though.
of the
I
trophy.
wrote down no, there was no trophy.
Oh, I
That's the
thought there
thing.
would
I
be.
kept going to see if there was a trophy.
Yeah.
I did 10,000 points.
I was about
yeah,
that.
I was like,
Yeah.
I was like,
Because it goes up pretty quick.
it goes, yeah,
Yeah.
and it just kept going. But like, you're shaking it, essentially trying to get as many religion points out of this thing as you possibly can. And
It's
then
really sad and desperate.
it is. It's a sad, desperate
Yeah.
plea to try to absolve yourself of the bad things that you think you've done.
Yeah.
And then you look in the reflection, and the reflection is now just Indika looking
Yeah.
at herself, no demon, no nothing.
But she sees herself.
She
as a
sees
demon.
herself.
Yeah.
She realizes like all of this was kind of for nothing, and she stands up and she lets go of the rosary that she holds on to so tightly that her hands bleed because she prays so hard into it, and it just scatters all over the floor, and that's how the game ends. And it's
Yeah.
just like this complete deconstruction of, it's not even a deconstruction of her faith, because she didn't truly believe.
No.
She's using the faith as a way to absolve herself. She didn't actually.
It's like she's reaching out for handholds as she's falling.
Exactly.
And just
Is
like,
that
what
just
can
the
I grab
moment
onto?
she snaps out of her delusion?
I think that's the thing. She finally like
I don't even know if she does.
I think at least the delusion that like the devil is
That-
her.
Or
Yeah.
I think the delusion that faith can fix
Fix
it.
everything.
That's maybe, that she's like, oh no, this isn't going to help me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that and too, and that's probably the moment when she stops disassociating, because she's clearly like,
Yeah,
if we
possibly.
think from a mental health lens,
Yeah.
dissociating so hard, maybe that's finally the moment where she
That's the thing.
realizes like, oh,
Sees herself.
yeah.
Like that's thing, the broken rosary is very much like a broken faith
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
symbolism there, right? So, and you said like
Yeah, she's let it go.
She's falling, grasping at things.
Yeah.
The game opens with you falling,
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to collect
Hey,
the
points.
religion points
Yeah.
as you're falling, right? And it's pixelated, so like it's
Mm-hmm.
obviously a continuation. It's almost full circle. The last Pixel game is where we find out about the boyfriend that her father murdered.
Yeah.
And then the first Pixel game is her falling, trying to collect religion points,
Yep.
and then she wakes up in a convent, right?
Yeah.
Like she obviously that was how she coped with her trauma, was trying to become a good person
Mhm.
Right.
via religion.
Of like, oh, this
To
is what people
absolve her
told me.
greatest sin by just a series of very small
Lighting candles and
religious-
saying little prayers.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like simple and easy. Well, if I do these steps,
Yeah.
then I will feel better and I will be good again. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, you don't feel better. Just
And that's
like,
the thing. And that's why I think this game is interesting.
Me
because
too.
it plays with the gamey aspects, and it's just in such conversation with the narrative. Like the gamey stuff, the traverse, the
I don't
weird,
think it's a perfect game.
No.
And I don't even know that I would recommend it.
It's a hard
to-
recommend, don't get me wrong.
Right?
Yeah.
I'd have to know the person pretty well
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
recommend it.
But I think that's the thing that I find so interesting about it, is how well the gaminess of the game is in conversation with the narrative and the
Yeah.
story that it's trying to tell. And I think that's why I find this game super interesting.
Because I'm not going to ask you the question, because as our fantasy critic judge, probably the open critic of this game.
Yeah. I
But
think
Katie,
so.
if you had to guess like what you
Ooh.
think the open critic of this one was, what would you
Ooh.
put it at?
Oh, that's tricky.
Because
That's
honestly,
so
it's
hard.
it's not where I thought it was going to be.
I'm gonna say like an 82.
79.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Trash
Yeah.
I
is
knew
new.
it right off. Yeah, I knew it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is
honestly,
shocking.
It came out with a 75. There was one really bad score, very like that. It was like a 50. But everything
50
else
is absurd.
That's the thing. There was a
50s even for me is absurd.
there was a
That's
50,
ridiculous.
but everything else was 80ish.
Yeah.
So it landed around a 75.
Game Mag gave it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then as the year went on, it slowly started rising up a little bit more because I think just more word of mouth and more people started reviewing it and stuff like that. And then so it ended the year at a 79.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'll take my 9
Honestly,
points.
I think that is entirely appropriate.
Yeah.
Because I think that narratively, I think art direction, sound, I think there's so many things about it that are very, very good in the way you're like the whole narrative ties together very well.
Mhm.
And it's not, I think it doesn't linger too hard on these like philosophical questions.
Yeah.
Like you could just sit in that forever. And it's like, no, we have like little conversations about it and we move on.
And what's fun is the game even acknowledges it. There is one moment that I laughed out loud where I think it's midway through the factory, and the game had been doing this where there's a platformy section, they don't really talk, and then in between the traversal, they start having conversations again. And it had been a platformy section about midway through, and Indika, like, as soon as we got in an elevator that was rising up, Indika goes, so about blah, blah, blah. And Ilya straight up says, like, not this again. Like, because it knew that it was, like, using these downtimes to have these conversations, which I thought was, like, it was a little tongue-in-cheek again. It was being really funny about the fact that...
Being like, haha, these sections aren't fun.
No, haha, these
They're
sections
not.
are where you're having conversation.
Honestly, I was annoyed at
Yeah.
a few of the puzzles.
Yeah.
There was like 3 of them that I was just like, because they're so simple, but kind of annoying to figure out that I was like, I don't know. But they're so short that I couldn't be that mad at them.
I could not figure out how to cross that ice bridge in the first 45 minutes.
Oh, that was a little
The
tough.
ice bridge.
'Cause
Oh,
you have
yes.
to like time a jump
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
just
yeah.
I
couldn't, my dumb brain.
was like, oh, well, what? Oh, it left without me. Okay, well, I'll bring it back. And I was like, that's a pretty big platform. And I just ran for it. And I got like literally the second
Yeah.
time I pulled the lever, I was like, I'm running. And I'm like, yeah,
I
made it.
did struggle with that one for a little bit. And I
Because
was
the
like,
timing
if I'm dumb-
window is like 2 seconds
Yeah.
where you really have to like go for it.
I struggle with the stupid bridge
Yeah,
near the
that's-
end.
So
Yeah.
I texted
you texted
Travis
me, yeah.
today because I'm like, I gotta finish this game, and I'm moving this stupid. It's where we're super surreal, and it is almost Inception like, where it's like this crane is lifting up entire
Bridges.
sections of bridge, and it looks absurd. But I'm moving this bridge around, and I can spin it around. I'm like, what the hell do I do with this freaking bridge?
Yeah.
And I'm so mad
Yeah.
because it's so simple
Yeah.
that I'm like, I'm missing something because all of these puzzles have been so simple, and the can too. I had trouble with the one part of the can, and then I figured it out. But that stupid bridge, and then I'm like, oh, because they're not that clearly outlined,
And the jankiness doesn't help. Like
No.
the jankiness with the puzzles doesn't help at the same time.
like the puzzles aren't cute enough, I guess.
yeah.
Not cute enough. I like them. I like things to not be like, here's how you solve this
You needed
puzzle
more yellow
within
paint.
1 minute.
You need more yellow
I
paint. to
don't, not yellow paint, but
but some kind of breadcrumbing.
Right.
Like I think even the bridge puzzle, like I was like, what do I how to
How would I know
wait,
to grab that second bridge?
Yeah.
yeah, like it doesn't look like you can grab it.
Right.
As opposed to the other bridge looks like you can grab it. It has like little
And I think
scuff
even the
marks
camera
on
is
it.
set up. Like
Yes.
it like prompts you, but it doesn't tell you to go grab the other one.
And then after it felt very obvious, just like with all the other puzzles.
Yeah.
But again, they were annoying because I don't think they're like the most well-designed puzzles in the world. They're not bad. They're just very simplistic. But they're short enough that I didn't get mad at them. Like I was like mildly annoyed. But it's not like it was this extensive puzzle section where it's so long. It was like, no, there's like one little nugget that I have to figure out.
Yeah.
And then I'd move on. So yeah, the puzzles being not great didn't affect my entire experience.
Where like the mini games, like I died so many times in that frog one. I could not get the timing
Yeah.
of the frog jumps.
It is sharp.
It was-
There is
yeah.
no time.
I could not.
You have to like preemptively jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost a rhythm game in the way that you have to like bop bop.
Yeah,
bop
with
for
the
your
frog
jumps.
cribbit.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
know. But that's the thing. Like, so the gaming aspects of it, it's in conversation with
Yes.
the narrative.
Absolutely.
I'm not here for that, but I like that it speaks to the story as a whole.
I think this is Odd Meter's first non-VR game also.
Oh,
which is
interesting.
sort of wild, yeah. So they did a VR game before this one, and then worked on Indika.
Really?
And so, like, And it sounds like they're working on their next project, which
I'd
thumbs
be
up.
in. Yeah.
Yep.
Like that's
Yep.
if you do
I'm
something weird
intrigued.
like this again, I'd be
Yep.
totally into something short and sweet.
Yep.
That's a strange little experience is my jam. Like
Yep.
give me a little story. I don't care if the puzzles are janky and all that
Especially with this length of game.
Yeah, it's so short.
Right? It doesn't overstay.
If this was 10 hours long,
Oh,
I'd be like,
God.
okay, I can't do this anymore.
It'd be awful.
What's
Yeah.
the rat Euro game? The Euro game with all the rats?
A Plague's Tale.
Yeah, Plague Tale.
Ah, okay,
like,
good.
I wouldn't want
A Plague Tale's too long.
Yeah, exactly. I
That
would
is
not
my
want them to
qualm
do
with that
Plague Tale,
game.
Yeah.
I appreciate many things about that game.
Yeah.
That game is too long, and I stopped about 3/4 of the way through and never finished
This
it.
is why I appreciate why we're friends. I say the rat game, the Euro rat game, and you know exactly where my
Like,
brain
I
goes.
got you.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts about Indika before we wrap this one up?
No, I feel like I've said like my thing. I like this weird little experience, and I think it's just an interesting thing to try to deep dive into the themes of the story and how the game works with it to kind of tell this story of her using faith to make herself feel better.
Okay, follow up.
Yeah.
Because you had mentioned like this is a tough game to recommend. So
Yeah.
obviously folks that have probably made it here have probably played the game.
Yeah.
So for folks that are listening, who do you recommend this game to?
Oh my god!
Like who in your life do you hand this to and say, Indika?
All the little freaks out there. No, just kidding.
It just has to be somebody who has played a different kinds of games that aren't mainly focused on gameplay.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, right? Is that
Yeah.
if you're used to being like, no, I like action games. I like gameplay games.
Or puzzle games or anything. It's not.
Yeah.
That's not what this is for.
It's not. If
No.
you like weird narrative, twisty logic things, and you're like, and you want a game that's gonna make you think a little bit, and that you're gonna ponder afterwards a little, then it's for you.
Yeah.
And it's like it's short and on the more affordable side.
Yeah.
So that helps out a bit with the recommendation.
But that's the thing. You look at like even just like the short form, like you play as a nun and you're like,
Yeah.
it's a hard sell.
I feel
just
like you
straight
know
off the
right
hop.
away.
Yeah.
I feel like when you say that,
Yeah.
you know the person knows if they're in or not.
Yeah.
You're like it's a weird narrative, kooky thing, and you're a nun,
Yeah.
and like it's a little paranoid and weird, and they're either like, yeah, sign me up for that,
Yeah.
or they're like, I don't know what that
And
is.
the box
No,
art
thank
is
you.
wildly striking also.
That's what
Yes.
I'm saying. The yellow, the dark
Vibes.
yellow, the box
Yeah.
art, the marketing for it, all the trailers are very strange. Like I think if you watch a trailer and you're like, what the heck did I just watch? Then like, and you're like, I want more. Then yeah, that's for you. If you look at it and you're like,
Yeah.
I have no idea. This was gibberish to me. Then I don't think you would want to.
This
play
is for fans of the movie Mother and only the movie Mother.
Mother. Oh my god, I love Mother.
Do you love it, or
Yes.
did you kind of hate it?
No.
But we know we enjoyed the experience.
That's the thing. We
don't
watched-
need to talk about
we
this
watched
right now.
Mother together.
I know you
in
did.
in
Yeah.
the theaters, and it was an assault on the senses.
That's
and,
what I
and
like. That's the thing. I liked my experience
It was a
with Mother.
unique
I cannot
experience.
recommend Mother
No,
to anyone. But I
Not a
very much
single person.
enjoyed my experience watching Mother.
had a
and
good
I
that's
time.
the
haven't
same
watched
thing.
Mother.
No, you shouldn't.
No,
you
I would
No,
not
but I
recommend it.
should.
No, you shouldn't.
Isn't it 3 hours?
I don't know. I don't
It's
remember.
long.
It was I felt assaulted.
That's Jennifer
Anyway.
Lawrence and
Yeah.
Javier Bardem?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah.
But yes.
Indika,
Yeah.
a video
Uh,
game.
Well, closing thoughts. I lost my train of thought with this whole meandering
Mother.
Mother. Jennifer Lawrence's.
I wish
kudos, but-
listeners could see the way you're looking at each other. It's like disdain at each other about Mother.
No, I enjoyed my time.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the thing.
anyway. Yeah, no, I liked. It's not a perfect game, and I don't look at it as like, oh my god, this is a masterpiece. I don't think it is, but it is. It does what it sets out to do very well, where it puts out these ideas and discusses them in a way that is engaging, and you can kind of think about it. You can think about the different elements afterwards and be like, oh, how does this tie in? How does that tie in? What about this conversation? Like, it all works together really, really well. Where I feel like everything makes sense together. It's not like, oh, this random piece doesn't belong in this game. It's like, no, everything is very thoughtful and deliberate. Whether or not every moment is perfect or not, but I think it's cool, and I'm like, look at you guys, like you guys made a thing.
Mhm.
Like this is,
Yeah.
I feel like it's an achievement. Like this game is an achievement. You made an impressive little piece here.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, it's a thinker. It's for those folks who are fine with non-gamey games. Bonus points if you had any sort of childhood or upbringing in religion, because I think it like you get extra from it because you remember your own Catholic or religious guilt.
I'd be curious to hear from people who are more involved with religion, because I feel like all three of us, we grew up in a Catholic school,
went to church.
Roman Catholic, kind of went to church, but like
didn't even.
It reduced to Easter and Christmas.
Yeah,
but
we were CNE Catholics. Yeah.
So like, I'd be really curious to hear people from different backgrounds or even different religions also, and like their perspective, because I don't know, we're all a little similar in our upbringing. So yeah, I don't know what somebody would think of if they are more involved and like that's a bigger part of their life as an adult.
Right.
You know where folks can tell us their thoughts about Indika?
Is it the Discord?
It would be the Left Behind Game Club Discord.
Oh my god, tell us all about it.
A fun little community for fun little freaks. You can find it at leftbehindgame.club/Discord. In there, we've got, we did Secret Santa for the holidays. We've got Fantasy Critic. We're talking about what we're playing. It's a cool little spot. We share some game deals and game news. Again, leftbehindgame.club/Discord. We are not on X anymore. Actually, I won't call it that. We're not on Twitter anymore. That's a hellscape. But we are on Blue Sky. You can find us there. leftbehindgameclub.bsky.social, I believe. If you search it, it's the first thing that comes up. But that's where you can find updates about the show, because we're doing more shows in 2025 than we did in 2024, and that's probably the best two places to find out what we got on tap. We got lots of episodes coming, so stick around for those. And if you've been listening for a long time, do us a favor and give us a review on your podcasting platform of choice, because truly, it matters. Guys, thanks.
Yeah,
we're doing this in person. I can reach out and touch you.
Oh God,
how's that?
No.
Yeah.
Sin.
You just lost like 20 points.
Shame.
Damn.
I'll get a bell.
Where can folks find you on the internet, Travis?
I'm on Blue Sky at Travis Colnett at .blue sky, whatever those letters were.
Yeah, I'll make sure that you. I think you guys are in the description for the Left Behind Game Club. So
yeah, I believe so.
People can find us all there and follow us there. Katie
at Blue Sky.
Cool.
Lesperak. LESPERAK.
Whatever.
Yeah, that thing.
If you just search Jacob on Blue Sky, I will come up, because I have jacob.bsky.social. How often am I going to say it? Every time we do this podcast. Katie?
I once made a joke of, if you get your name in a new social media but no one's around to see it, does it matter? This one ended up mattering.
Wow.
I'm sure you have like a Mastodon and a such and such and a such and such, and I'm sure 3 social medias I've never even heard of, and you have Jacob in all of them, but this one mattered.
A broken
so good
clock
for you.
is
Thank
right.
You.
Oh!
Twice a day?
It sure is. That's going to be it for this show. So with that, I say, and that, my friends, is one less game left behind.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds,
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun, whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there. So we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy
Welcome
gaming.
to Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt. I psyched myself up. There it is. Take a drink when he goes up.
Okay.
Say a prayer when he goes up. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pop,
yeah.
pop, pop. Great. Can you guys see my face?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Most of it.
Yeah.
Great.
Part of
You
it.
don't need to see it.
The good parts. No, just kidding. I don't know what that means.
My glasses that hide my sad eyes. I forgot how to.
Did you do yours, Jacob McCourt at Blue? You did. Yeah,
I did.
okay.
Yeah. She said,
You know what?
Remember
I'm
how she
so
was
used
like,
to you saying.
She gave me an attaboy on the head, and I was like, oh,
You know
an
what?
attaboy for
You're
Katie.
used to doing. I'm so used to hearing Jacob McCourt, JM. Yeah.
Yeah, don't do that.
We changed our mind on the explosives.
I'm the problem. It's me. Tea time. Everybody agrees.
I stare
directly at the sun, but never in the mirror. It must be exhausting, always rooting for the anti-hero.
Da 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 do 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 do.